You're sitting in your apartment, eating lukewarm noodles and wondering why your Netflix subscription just went up another $2 when the mail arrives. Between a pizza coupon and a final notice for a gym you haven't visited since the Obama administration, there's an envelope. It's heavy. It smells like old money and expensive tobacco.
You open it, expecting a wedding invite you'll ignore. Instead, it's a handwritten note. The Cercle convenes at midnight. Room 402. Bring the dossiers. Now, if you're a normal person, you think it's a prank. But the QR code on the back takes you to a website that doesn't exist on the indexed web. It's a ghost. Welcome to your first, and likely last, day at Cercle.
Most people spend their lives obsessing over the Illuminati. They look for triangles in pop stars' music videos or post memes about the Freemasons. But here's the thing. If you know the name of a secret society, they're doing a terrible job at being secret. The Freemasons have lodge buildings with signs on them.
The Illuminati? They're basically a lifestyle brand for people who think vitamin water is a government tracking device. But Cercle? You won't find them on a t-shirt. They don't have a PR firm. They are the 1% of the 1%'s inner circle. And today, thanks to a very fortunate, or very fatal, clerical error, you aren't just watching them. You're one of them. Stay close. Don't touch the caviar. And for the love of God, don't ask about the 1983 Australian election.
So, what is Cercle? Well, besides being the reason your privacy settings are a lie, it's a transnational intelligence and security group. Think of it as a private, high-stakes book club, but instead of discussing the Great Gatsby, they discuss how to overthrow governments in the global south and keep the Cold War feeling chilly. Founded in the early 1950s by Antoine Pinay, former French Prime Minister, and Jean Violette, a lawyer with enough ties to intelligence agencies to make James Bond look like a mall security guard. Heard of them? Because while the Bilderberg Group, those guys who meet in luxury hotels while protesters scream outside, acts as a talking shop for the elite, Cercle is an action shop. They don't just talk about the world. They tinker with the engine while it's running. We're talking MI6, the CIA, the DGSE, and high-ranking politicians from every major Western power. And the best part? They don't exist. Seriously. Try searching for their official headquarters. I'll wait. Exactly. They move like a virus, only visible when the host starts showing symptoms. You arrive at a private estate outside of Paris. You're wearing a suit you borrowed from your cousin, and you're sweating. You expect a hooded robe and a sacrifice. Instead, it's a cocktail party. It's surprisingly corporate. There's a guy in the corner who looks exactly like a former chancellor of West Germany. Because he is. There's an American senator laughing with a British intelligence officer about a mishap in Oman.
This is the first I didn't know that moment of the night. Secret societies aren't usually a cult. They're administrative. The true power isn't in chanting spells. It's in having the personal cell phone number of the guy who controls the Suez Canal.
You realize that in this room, the concept of nations is a bit quaint. To these people, borders are just lines on a map that tell them where the taxes change. You're standing in a room that represents roughly 40% of the world's GDP, and they're currently arguing about the quality of the shrimp. It's terrifying, because it's so normal. Let's look at who's clinking glasses next to you. Historically, the guest list for Cercle is a who's who of people you'd want on your side during an apocalypse.
You've got Otto von Habsburg, the last crown prince of Austria-Hungary. Yeah, royalty doesn't go away, they just move into consulting.
Then there's Brian Crozier, a man who essentially ran a private intelligence agency for Margaret Thatcher. He's the guy who once said he was in the business of the survival of the West, which is code for, I do the stuff the government can't admit to in a courtroom.
There are representatives from the Pinay Cercle, the Atlantic Council, and various security institutes that sound like they sell insurance, but actually sell revolutions. The pattern? Everyone here is a hardliner. They aren't interested in diplomacy. They're interested in victory. If the Illuminati are the management, Le Cercle is the special ops team that management calls when they need a problem to stop breathing.
And you? You're just nodding and smiling, trying not to let them see that your dossier is actually just a folder full of printed memes and a grocery list. Around 2 a.m., the small talk stops. The doors are locked. This is where the open loop closes. You've been wondering what they actually do. They don't talk about taxes. They talk about the great game. In the 70s and 80s, Le Cercle was obsessed with making sure the Soviet Union didn't just lose, but stayed lost. They were linked to Operation Gladio, a stay-behind network of secret armies across Europe. Imagine a paramilitary group sleeping in your basement, waiting for a signal that never comes. That was their brainchild. Today, the conversation has shifted. You overhear a conversation about data sovereignty and algorithm stability. You realize they aren't looking at who wins the next election. They're looking at who programs the digital reality of the people voting in it.
Here is the I didn't know that kicker. Le Cercle isn't funded by a government. It's funded by private donors and slush funds from intelligence agencies. That means they have no oversight. No Senate hearings, no FOIA requests. They are a ghost ship in the middle of the geopolitical ocean, and they've just invited you to the captain's table. By 4 a.m., you're starting to see the perks of the accidental invite. The pros: 1. The network. If you need a kidney at 3 a.m. on a Sunday, someone in this room can get you 3. 2. Information. You know what's going to happen to the stock market 3 weeks before it happens. You're not just investing, you're reading the script. 3. The pass. You're effectively a citizen of a country that doesn't have a name. Traffic tickets? Gone. Customs lines? For peasants. But then the cons hit you like a cold shower. 1. The exit policy. There isn't one. You don't retire from Le Cercle. You either become a permanent fixture or a security liability. 2. The paranoia. Every friend you make in this room is a professional liar. You can't even trust the guy who passed you the salt. He's probably checking your pulse to see if you're nervous. 3. The moral weight. You realize that the order they provide comes at a cost. That stable oil price you like, it was bought with a coup in a country you couldn't find on a map. You're in the most exclusive club on earth, but you've never felt more like a prisoner. You realize the circle isn't a symbol of unity. It's a fence. Now here's the twist. You think this is all a what-if story? In 1982, a journalist named Hans Langemann leaked documents from the West German intelligence service. These documents confirmed, for the first time, the existence of Le Cercle. They weren't just a club. They were actively working to influence the elections in the UK and Germany. But here's the part that turns the analysis on its head. Many researchers believe Le Cercle wanted to be leaked. Why? Because the best way to hide a real secret is to turn it into a conspiracy theory. By letting a small amount of truth out, they became a myth. And myths are easy to dismiss. When you tell your friends you were at a meeting of Cercle, they'll laugh and ask if you saw Bigfoot there too. The twist isn't that they're hiding, the twist is that they're standing in plain sight, and they've made sure you're too smart to believe they exist. As you leave the estate, the sun starts to rise. Your phone pings. It's a notification for a 10% discount on your next pizza. The world looks the same. The streets are the same. But you know better. You know that the news is just a summary of decisions made in rooms filled with expensive tobacco. You know that accidental invites don't exist in a world run by intelligence officers, which leads to one final haunting thought. If they're as powerful as I've told you, if they're as secretive as the records suggest, then why did they let you walk out of that room? Maybe you weren't accidentally invited, maybe you were just recruited. And this video, this was your first briefing. Welcome to the Cercle. Don't mention this in the comments, or do. They're watching either way.